Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're featuring this 1994 Camaro, and this customer is getting a roll cage. They brought their vehicle into us because they brought it to the track for the first time over at Great Lakes, which is our local racetrack, to see what kind of time it would run, and it broke into the 10s. It shocked him, and he decided to move forward with safety, which is always a good idea. The first thing with safety when it comes to running in the quarter mile at that speed is getting a proper roll cage in there, and even better if you can get it certified by the NHRA, which this one is going to get. After each of the roll cages are built here in-house at Hochman Fabrication and Speed, unless it's going out for a road racing application or other, we have the NHRA come out, inspect it personally, and stamp it with a certification, which is required at most of the larger events, such as Import versus Domestic World Cup Finals. In this particular case, this cage is certified to do 850s in the quarter mile, and that's based on very specific details provided by the NHRA, which we must meet in order for this to pass tech inspection. If you come to our shop here at Hochman Fabrication and Speed and you're looking for a roll cage, you've got a couple of different options. The first option, of course, is finding a pre-made roll cage kit online and going that route. That can be a mixed bag though. Not all cages are a one-size-fits-all. They're designed to fit the specs and the space within the actual framework of the vehicle, but they don't always ensure or guarantee that they're going to fit to the driver. So that's where we come in with a custom cage if that's necessary. If custom is the route to go, here at Hochman Fabrication and Speed, we bend our own custom roll cages and are happy to accommodate whatever your vehicle and personal needs are. In this particular case, the customer has decided to go with a pre-made cage in order to save a little bit of money. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you choose one that happens to be really well made, you can save a little bit of money and there's no reason to recreate the wheel. In this case, we've gone with a cage from Rock Solid Motorsports. From the online pictures and having discussions with the guys over there, it seems that this is a really well made cage and a lot of value for the money. When it comes to building a roll cage, the first step in the process is removing all of the interior. We've got to remove the carpeting and any of the interior trim paneling that may be in the way to allow us a proper workspace to do what we're doing. Next is cleaning up all the floor plate areas so that we can prep and weld the floor and allow for a clean foundation for the cage that we're going to be installing. So as you can see, we've got any sound deadening removed, along with any paint and any seam sealer, allowing us to have a very clean foundation for welding in the floor plates. And you'll notice that the floor plates on the middle tunnel area, as well as the foundation for the main hoop, have been fully welded into place because we've moved this cage forward a little bit, leveraging the advantage that we have with the T-tops in order to access the top welds and make sure that we can easily get all the way around. Once this is complete, we'll end up moving this backwards into position and allowing us to mock up the rest of the cage accordingly. There are rules in the NHRA book that allow you to forego welding all the way around the top side of the tube. If you get into that type of situation, you simply have to add some gussets. But that means obviously adding more weight, and when it comes to racing and trying to keep weight to a minimum, it's a little bit counterproductive to add all the extra gusseting if you're working on a cage that doesn't require them. Certainly if you get into like a 25-3 cage or a 25-1 cage, gussets are going to be required, but if you don't need them, it's best to just weld all the way around the tube and avoid the extra weight.
Things I really love doing is enforcing this base plate by doing a first pass with, like the amount of filler wire, and then coming back over it and laying a nicer pass on top of that to just reinforce the weld to make sure that it's not going to separate from the base plate.
But I have to say, welding in car is probably one of the hardest welding things I've ever done.
especially because of all the different positions that you have to put yourself in to get around every single bar, just to make sure that everything is welded. Because if everything's not welded, you are risking somebody's life. As long as you weld it, and it's all the way around, and it has good structural value, everything will come out just right. Another thing to be aware about is you do also really want to swap sides. You want to weld a couple times, do a pass or two, and then swap your sides. The bar does get hot, and when the bar gets hot, it blows back on you. You do put a hole in the center where the bar is to release the pressure to go through the entire cage. So what I did was I put a hole at the top of the main hoop, so that anything where I put a hole for all these connections of the tubes, that everything just kind of seeps through the cage and comes out this little hole right here, so that none of the pressure will be built up. Where this tube is right here, in the middle of where this tube intersects into the main hoop is where the hole is. You can't see it because it's on the inside, but with that being on the inside, it allows the gas for whatever goes into the inside of that tube to be released through the rest of this cage. Same thing with all the other tubes. It's really to just ensure that no gas buildup happens, because otherwise it's just going to get stuck in there, and once it gets stuck, you're putting all this pressure into the cage, and it's just going to keep blowing it back out at you as you're trying to weld a certain section. So it's really important to do that, because otherwise you will not get a fully welded tube around, and your cage will not be structurally sound.
For those of you that are wondering what we do as far as paint is concerned on these cages, unless it's going to have the full interior paint job, like this particular job that we're working on from Quebec, Canada, where we're gonna build a cage and then we're gonna send it off to paint, unless we're gonna do something like that where it will get painted like a traditional job with a painter, then what we do or recommend customers do is a brush-on Rust-Oleum. My favorite personally is the Hammertone that Rust-Oleum offers, which is a textured style paint, because with race cars, they typically go faster in the future, and you want to be able to add bars and blend that in without having it be noticeable. But others prefer a gloss finish, and in this case the customer requested a gloss black finish, so we did a brush-on Rust-Oleum. It's durable because it's designed for use on outdoor patio furniture, and it's perfect for an application like this because it does save time and money. You don't have to worry about masking everything off in the interior. You can just mask off the surrounding pieces. So that's what we did on this one.
Right now I am test fitting the door bar into the swingaways. I had previously cut away the door bar once welded it in to be able to make sure I had enough distance between the swingaways and the door bar, and cutting out the perfect amount of sections like that everything can be welded and kind of fit correctly. So when you remove the door bar and it comes out of the swingaway, it should be able to swing across with the door and back into its same position. This is the tricky part of making sure that the door bar actually lines up correctly in the swingaways, so like that when you do close the door, that the door doesn't hit the door bar. It's most important that this does not happen, because if the door bar is cocked at a certain position, it will not allow you to close the door. We are in the final stages of getting this car all wrapped up and getting the interior back into it. Right now I am getting the carpet put back into place by sectioning out certain parts of it to be able to wrap it around certain parts of the cage. In certain spots I do have to make lines to be able to get it to come across the D-bars and also this back X section. With that, once I make those cuts, I'm able to get it to fully outline the cage, and then I will round out my sections to be able to get everything to the pillars and comfortable, so like that there's no open gaps and everything's where it's supposed to be.
So there you have it, folks. This 94 Camaro roll cage job is all complete. It's been certified by the NHRA for 850 in the quarter mile. So now when spring comes around and it's finally ready and it's finally time for track season, this gentleman's gonna be able to go straight to the track with confidence that the tech inspector is gonna pass him and not give him a hard time. Now, this particular cage was an extra challenge for us because the customer decided that they really wanted a full interior and they still wanted to maintain the factory dash. And if any of you out there are familiar with this model and this year, this is the 94 Camaro, or any of the F-bodies for that matter, the dash itself is very, very brittle. So brittle, it's like a graham cracker. So when you're lifting that dash topper off, it wants to crack on you. And that resulted in us having to do a little bit of plastic welding in order to make sure that it all went back in one piece. But we always put in the extra effort in order to deliver what we promised the customer, and that's what we did here. So this has a swing away door bar on it. It's also been painted. It still has the factory carpet in it. And from what I understand, he's very happy with the end result, as am I.